Okay, welcome back, everyone. Welcome in.
Hello, hello.
We are back. Sixth episode of the podcast here, and hope everyone's been doing well. Still recuperating a little bit from last time. Still a little bit under the weather, but we're trudging on. We're trudging through. Before the last couple of days, yesterday I was thinking about different topics to discuss and things I think that would be interesting to sort of give different perspectives. And one thing that is interesting that I feel like at first glance you would think it should kind of be the opposite is the fact that I live here in America as an Orthodox Jew, and you live in Tel Aviv, in Israel, in our land, in our homeland. And obviously, our goal as Orthodox Jews eventually is to move there. So I think one of the questions that I would have at least is, why is it that I live here, and why do you live there? Why don't I live in Israel, and why did you move to Israel from New York? What were you seeking out? What were you looking for? I think that would be interesting. So take it away. Let's hear it.
Well, I think, first of all, for your question, I had the same question. Why the heck are you here and not in Israel? I'm just saying. I don't know. I really don't know. But it's funny because so many people, especially Israelis, ask me all the time. They're like, "Oh, what made you move here?" Like it's like a one answer thing. Like, "Oh yeah, it's because I was thinking on January 29th of 2015, like blah blah blah."
Right.
Like, you and I, we grew up in a family. Dad was very pro-Israel. We've been coming to Israel for like Pesach and Sukkot and like all the, the Shalosh Regalim, like the high holidays, like since we were like kids. The first time we came, I just turned 9 years old. And now I'm 30, going to be 31 in June, frightening. So we've been coming here so long. And, also when I was in high school, like, a year, like after high school, like a lot of like Orthodox Jews go like a year abroad to like yeshivas and stuff. But I went to like Bar Ilan because I still wanted like 1 year in Israel, which is like a very common thing in the community. And even at that point, like Israel was a place like I always loved. But like if anyone asked me if I would have ever lived there, like I would have never thought I lived there. I would have been like, oh, I'm too American, or blah blah blah. I never thought I would have lived there. So like that's why like when people always ask me that question, like what made you move? It's like it wasn't like a specific thing. It was a very long like thing of different like experiences, and then also thinking about it for a long time. I didn't make any abrupt like decision. Like I was visiting for a long time, and then like as I got a little bit older, in my late teens and early 20s, like our family went through a lot of different experiences. There were like divorces and all these other things going on. A lot of big changes, especially living in a small, tight-knit community. People are talking a lot. So it was a lot of things that, really, especially coming out of the closet and then going through all that. And then everything else that went on within our family, it was just a culmination of so many different things. And I feel like because of all those different circumstances in our lives that we went through, it really made me have to grow up faster. I was always an old soul. I feel like, our parents named me, my English name is Sheldon. So I feel like they kind of set me up to be like an 80-year-old soul forever. Now I feel like I am 80. But so I feel like I really thought about like, now that I'm getting older, like, where am I going in my life? Like, what's going to make me, be happy? Like, we grew up as kids in Chicago. Then I went to Israel for the year. Right after my Israel for the year, I went to New York. That's where our sisters lived. I always thought like, oh, I was such a New Yorker. Like, that's where I always wanted to be. It was my first time living there as an openly gay man for like 5.5 years. And it was a great place. And I had great experiences, but I was never really happy. I felt like, I was like a needle in a haystack, even less than like, I felt like once I came out and everything, and you have like the community and everything, it's like, oh, it's this tight knit, super close community, and everyone's just fighting for each other. It's just not like that at all. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that many of us grew up in different communities, Jewish, not Jewish, doesn't matter. Where I have friends who even didn't grow up religious at all, and their parents had difficulties with it. I feel like it's something that's so taboo, or was so taboo, much more taboo than it is now, that it was kind of like a scary thing. So I feel like because of that, a lot of people are very guarded, and it became like, people are very cliquey in the LGBTQ community, from my experience personally. And so like there's a lot of things. I felt like a lot of my relationships with my friends there, it was a very like surface level. Like I used to party a lot. Like my late teens, my early 20s, I was a big partier, was always going out at the hottest spots, never waited in lines, knew every like, club owner and stuff. And it got to a point where it's like, I've been there, done that, tried that, popped that, drank that. Like I was like, I did that. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like I did it all. Like, and it was me trying to figure myself out. Like, when I first came out, I used to wear a lot more makeup. Now I'm not wearing any makeup and my hair looks like a mess. I was on work all day. But like, I used to wear a lot more makeup. I used to do my nails because I was trying to figure out who I was, what I wanted, because I was so repressed for so long and trying to dress a certain way or act a certain way to please everyone else that I had no idea who the hell I was. So it was constantly a thing of trying to figure out who I was, what I wanted. And so like, as I got older and different life experiences in our family, and then as I started being serious about my job. I was working as a full-time professional makeup artist. Thank God, like, I built up a nice clientele when I was in New York. I wasn't able to party at night. A lot of my jobs I was waking up super early for. One of my consistent clients who lived near me, who I did work for all the time, I was waking up at 4:35 a.m., for her to be on TV. Like, there was a lot of stuff that I was doing so early in the morning that I wasn't, I don't even think I had like the, a lot of people, they could party all night and then work hard during the day. I couldn't do that. I need like at least 8 hours of sleep, or like steer clear for me, because I am your worst nightmare. Also, I get very hangry. When I'm hangry, when I'm tired, don't go near me. On a fast day, avoid me.
I can attest.
Exactly. So once I stopped that, I started realizing a lot of my like friends who I was hanging out with, it's not like I ever like confided in them with like deep stuff or the things that were going on in our family. It was really just like we were partying all the time. We always pre-gamed at my house because I always had the alcohol. I was the one who had a car living in the city, so I was picking up everyone else. Like, it was always like me. And then once I stopped doing all of that, it was like they started slowly dwindling away, and like, all the different life experiences. And then like ultimately I realized like, I was figuring myself out. I got to a much better place where I'm very comfortable being gay. I'm very comfortable being Jewish. I was much more comfortable in my skin. But I wasn't happy. Like, I just genuinely wasn't happy. Like,
because what you felt like the friends you had, it wasn't a meaningful relationship as much.
Yeah, it was like a culmination of a lot of things. Like, we were going through so much. The friends that I had that were friends, they're not really deep relationships. It's very surface level. It's just partying and stuff. And then, figuring myself out, I wanted to, be bigger in my career. I wanted more out of life. Like, I was like, I wasn't happy there. Like, we grew up in America. We're like third or fourth generation American. And I remember like in middle school, even like at 1:15 on the dot, we always had like the Pledge of Allegiance in middle school. And like someone would go on the phones and the intercom systems. Right. I never felt connected to that. Like, and not that I have anything wrong with America or like I'm saying America so bad. Me personally, I never felt like a proud American or connected to America. I never like, waved an American flag and felt something. Like, it wasn't a place that I felt proud to be in. And only 1% of America is Jewish, not religious, just Jewish. 0.2% of America is religious Jewish. And it's like, you're such a minority. So then being gay and being Jewish, and so you're a minority within a minority. It's like, how many more things could I add to that? It's like, I was like looking for something. And I remember I was in therapy. I'm still seeing the same therapist I was seeing while I was in New York. I FaceTime with him, which is funny because a lot of people were like, is it weird FaceTiming? And then the pandemic happens and then everybody was FaceTiming. And I'm like, yeah, welcome to my world. And I remember it wasn't a rash decision. I talked about it with him for 3.5 years, that it was a consideration. I was thinking, I was like, maybe Israel, but I didn't want to just be like, oh, Israel, let me just pick up my entire life, move halfway across the world to my stuff. Right. I was thinking about it, but if it's something that I was going to consider, it was something that I was going to do. Like, it's not like, like when I started to tell people that I was moving to Israel and it was official after 3.5 years, and I started to tell people were like, oh, well, it's not like you have to give up your citizenship. So like, if it doesn't work out, you can always come back. And like, while that is a valid point, I wasn't moving to a whole new country, picking my life, moving with my dog, all my stuff, like getting, rid of stuff, like thinking like, oh, well, if it doesn't work out, I'll just move back. Like, that wasn't my point of moving it here. And that's why I thought about it for 3.5 years, because I want to make sure if I'm going to make such a big decision, it was going to be the right decision. Right. And, I could be a very impulsive person at times, but, when it comes to this kind of stuff, like, I have to take a step back and be like, well, is this something that, like, I remember talking to my therapist about it, and like right before I was going to move, and I was like, it's so crazy. Like, we talked about it for so long. And then, I once I decided I was going to do it, I prepared like my aliyah, my immigration process for 9 months. And I was like, it's so crazy. Like, it like flew by. He's like, I was talking about it. He's like, if I ever felt at any point that you were trying to run away from your problems, or like, you were going through so much stuff here that you thought by moving to another country, it was going to get rid of all that, I would have been like, no, like you need to take a step back. Like you can't run away from your problems. No matter where
Right.
you are, wherever you go, your problems are going to follow you.
Right.
So whether you're
100%.
halfway across the world, completely across the world, doesn't matter. Space, your problems are following you. So he said, if I ever felt like that at any point, and it's like now I've been here, like this August in 2023 is going to be 7 years, which is crazy. And, even with the fact that we literally had 5 elections here in the past, I don't know, 2.5 years, and like all the bureaucracy and the craziness, and it's harder to make money here compared to America and all these different things. I honestly thank God, like there was never one point in the past 6.5 years where I ever felt like, oh my God, did I make a mistake, or like regretted my decision, or felt like, maybe I jumped into this too fast, or like, even when I come to visit you guys in America, like I just came to New York, and like, it's so nice to see my friends and my family. And like, honestly, like when people ask me, like, what's the hardest thing about you moving? When I was moving, I was like, honestly, like Amazon and like Seamless, which was like,
Right.
the food delivery. But now we have Walt here in Israel. So I had the food delivery, and Amazon does deliver here. It's just not like, 1 hour
Overnight,
like
right.
I had. Yeah. Well, in the city, I literally had a TV last minute sent to me to my left. Under 2 hours was free. 1 hour was $7.99, and it was cheaper to get the TV sent to me within that 2 hour time frame than it was to buy it from Best Buy or any of the stores nearby me in my apartment. I'm like it's crazy.
Right.
And yeah, so I feel like the hardest part was leaving my like nieces and nephews behind. Like, you and like my other siblings, like I'm able to FaceTime with, and like, go on Zoom with, and like, that makes a huge difference. Like I remember when we were younger, we had relatives in Israel. Calling them was so expensive. Like, long distance calling within America was expensive. Calling like internationally was crazy. So like the fact that that's not a problem, the fact that we could like FaceTime and stuff like that makes things easier. At the time, most of my nieces and nephews were very young. Now some of them still are. Like your children are still very young. Like, so it's much harder for that, because I don't want to be like, that uncle who lives halfway across the world. Like I love my nieces and nephews. They mean so much to me. Like that's why I always make sure to like, send them birthday presents and like Hanukkah presents.
Yeah,
I
you're the
want to
best
make
about
sure
that stuff.
Yeah, because I don't want to be like that uncle who lives in Israel. Like I want to make sure that they know who I am and all that stuff. And it's hard. So like some of them are older, where like now they have phones or iPads or iPods where they could like text me and stuff like that. And it's so nice. But like, so that was probably the hardest part about leaving. But aside from that, like, being Jewish in America, and like that was a lot of things like that we talked about like a couple episodes ago when I was talking about my coming out story and everything. It's a very black and white thing. It's either like you're religious or you're not religious. People always ask me like, are you from? Like in the religious community, we always see the word from, which I don't know if it's Yiddish or something.
Yeah,
but
it comes from Yiddish.
It does. So
Yeah.
so it's like Yiddish. So it's like it's asking like, are you religious? And it's like it's a very black and white question. Like, are you or aren't you? And like I said in that episode, like I feel like I'm more connected to Judaism now than it was then. Not that being religious was wrong, or that the way my upbringing was wrong. Just the fact that for me personally, at that time, I felt a certain way, and now in my life, now in my connection to God, it's in a much healthier place for me
Right.
personally. So, and I feel like that's a big part of it. It's like everyone has to find what works for them personally. Like for someone who's religious, I would never tell them, "Oh, why would you be religious?" Like blah 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 blah. Like I've learned a big differentiation between whatever communities that I was raised in, and the religion itself and the orthodoxy itself. It's two very different things. Whether or
Right.
not people get those confused that's their own thing, but it's not the religion itself.
Right. It's
So I
also
feel
hard to
like-
find a balance between your own self-identity and expression while at the same time remaining a part of a community. I remember someone sent me
100%.
a picture. It was like a painting of like 5 Hasidic Jews like dancing. They were all silhouettes in black. And then one of them, his socks were like bright like colors. And it was just like to show like you could, you maintain a sense of individual expression and your own personal relationship with God, but you are also, you remain a part of a community in a larger sense.
Totally. That's really nice.
We just have to respect each other for those things. Something that you said before, which I think is interesting about, when they would play the national anthem in school, I feel like we both grew up, and Dad was very, our father was very much so, since we were little kids, he made it very clear that America is a temporary place and that Israel is where we're supposed to be. And that Israel is where we want to go. Like Sheldon said, we go, a few times a year, 3-4 times a year. And like when we went, most Jewish families, at least that I know, if not all of them, that go to Israel for vacation or even for the holidays. So on the vacation days, they'll go do fun activities. You go jet skiing, scuba diving, hiking. When we went there, we went to like military bases. We went to towns and cities that are on the border with Gaza or Syria. And we would have to run into bomb shelters. I remember we went to Sderot when I was little to give out fruit and chicken to poor families. And while we were eating at someone's house, the alarm went off. We had to run into a shelter. The guy didn't even have a shelter in his home. He put us in the room that would be the safest in case there was a direct impact.
Yeah.
But because Dad was always so in that perspective, because he was always sort of putting that into us. I feel like that's why there was always a sort of, I wouldn't say discomfort as much as a feeling that this is not where I'm supposed to be. And at the same time, while he impressed that into us, he also always, this is one thing I feel like there's always those few things that like you disassociate with your parents. The one thing that Dad always did whenever we were in public and whenever he would see anyone who was in the military or was serving the country in some way in America,
Israel
he walked over to them.
Always,
it doesn't matter. Walked over to them. He said, thank you, shook their hand. Thank you for your service.
As a kid, I used to always roll my eyes. And like, as an adult, I'm like, wow. Like, that's because really nice.
It's even if you don't feel like this is your long-term home, you have to have gratitude for the 100%. Fact that they took us and for the fact that we flourished as a community, as individuals.
The fact that you could live as a normal person with everyday life, now worrying about being murdered or rockets falling on you or Russia coming after you. So,
right. Yeah, just being able to express our own religious beliefs.
A lot of us take things for granted like that.
Right.
Our safety.
100%. So I kind of felt the same way, where like I didn't necessarily feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. Obviously, I'm more comfortable among the culture in America than in Israel because I'm used to it. And it is a bit of a culture shock moving to Israel. People are very different.
Totally.
Food is different. Shopping's different. Prices are different. The currency's different. Politics are all over the place. But at the same time, that was where we were at. And we also grew up. My father was and is still very much so a history buff. He loves history, loves Jewish history. And he would constantly remind us and teach us about the horrors of the Holocaust and what happened. As a little kid, I would watch documentaries with him. I remember probably being younger than I should have been. And like walking into the family room and my dad would be watching this documentary. I'd sit with him and watch this like horrible documentary about, and he's read every book you could imagine. And he would just impress that idea into us that throughout history, the Jews have moved to so many different places, to so many different countries, and they've adapted and they've assimilated and they've acclimated to different cultures. But at the end of the day, we keep getting pushed out of all these countries. We've been exiled over 30 times and from various countries throughout our history. And at a certain point, he's like, we have to wake up and realize this because we're not where we are supposed to be. We're supposed to be in Israel. But something that I wanted to ask you was when you were a teenager, when you got older, when you had come out, and your views were obviously different from when you were growing up and when you were religious, did you ever struggle with reconciling, us growing up with a love for Israel and at the same time the media portraying Israel as like an apartheid country that oppresses Palestinians and settles their land? Or was that always, you just kind of always felt like that's nonsense and I know what the truth is?
So that's the thing is like, as a Jew living in America, someone who we used to come to Israel all the time. So we would see a lot of things that happen and then we see the way it's portrayed in the news. Living in America, you're like, this is just not what it is.
Right.
Now, literally living in Israel, when 2 summers ago, we literally had rockets shooting towards us, where I literally opened my window on FaceTime with Mom, and I look up, and there's an alarm going off, and then rockets literally fly past my window, and I'm like, oh my God. My Mom's yelling at me, like, run to the bomb shelter! I was just in such shock, because I'm like, this doesn't happen in Tel Aviv. Gosh. Right, exactly.
I can see you like filming.
So I'm literally, first our cousin is messaging me and she's telling me, she's like, oh my God, the alarm's been going off in Jerusalem and everything. She's like, I heard that like they're threatening to attack Tel Aviv. I was like, I'm literally like voice recording her. I was like, no. I was like, I doubt it's going to Tel Aviv. I literally open my window and the alarm goes off. I'm like, oh my God, the alarm just went off. I have to call my mom. And they're like, call Mom. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, oh my God, there's rockets. So like I like show her on the FaceTime. She's like, run to the shelter. So we were going through that where it was like daily. Like the only like thank God for this country, the fact that we have the Iron Dome, which literally is this incredible thing that could like when something is shot off, like a rocket or a missile or anything like that, it could either explode it over the ocean or completely like, make go like it basically kills it so it doesn't
Intercepts
kill
it.
us.
And, you're right.
Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. Couldn't think about it. Intercepts it. Biduk. Exactly. So if not for the security and everything here, we'd be dead. So like that's why I love it. Like when they show like on the news like these Israeli military men and all this stuff. They're first of all, a lot of them are children because they're drafted at 18, but like they need to be drafted at 18 for the security of our country. We're literally the size of New Jersey. There's only one Jewish country, which is Israel, the size of New Jersey. There's over 50 other Arab countries. A lot of, Palestinians. There's Arab Israelis who are Israeli and they're Arab and they're allowed to go wherever they want and everything's fine. People on the news usually portray things as like Israeli. I mean, the Arabs are not allowed in, Jewish territories and they're boxed in and blah, blah, with these walls. Okay. The walls that we have are not walls boxed them in. They're literally defense walls. So we don't get killed.
Right.
Secondly, you want to not be part of Israel. You hate the state of Israel. You want to be part of the Palestinian Authority. So you are part of the Palestinian Authority, but then you claim you're not allowed to be in our territories. Well, girl, I'm Israeli and American. I'm not allowed in your territory.
Right.
So I'm literally not allowed. In fact, in all those territories, which are talked as Area A, they have huge ass red signs on it. How if you're Israeli, you are not allowed to enter, and how it's dangerous to your life.
Yep. There's not one sign anywhere, not one sign in the entirety of Israel that says in big red, Arabs may not enter.
It's a danger to your life. We might cut you. Right. No such thing. So it's like, and if we're, the way they portray us, if we're such a horrible country and we're just so horrible to you, I'm so sorry. Like, go to one of the other like 50 plus Arab countries that are obviously so good to your people.
Right.
Go there, but why aren't you? Like, why aren't you going there? Is it because they're not even treating their own people well? Like, I'm not
because life is much better for them in Israel.
Exactly,
like infinitely.
And so
better.
A lot of people will be like, "Oh, that's Islamophobic or this that." No, not at all. I actually have friends who are Muslim, and there's a lot of divisive issues in this country politically. You feel it more in the more religious neighborhoods. In Tel Aviv, you don't feel it as much, which is why when things like rockets are coming here, that's when it's like, oh shit, because we're a much more like liberal and leftist community that things are usually much more tame here because it's not like heavily, surrounded by religion and extremism like some areas are. But at the end of the day, when the rockets started coming and stuff like that, we all know where we're going and what side we're on. And it's very scary and it's very sad and it's unfortunate. And it's like, and you go through history and it's like, you look at the Oslo Accords with Bill Clinton. What did that do? Who broke the peace in that situation? When you look at all these different things throughout history, any kind of peace treaty, when Ariel Sharon was the prime minister of Israel and gave Gush Katif, which is now Gaza, to the Arabs, and they don't talk about in the news how thousands of Jews were ripped out of their homes. A lot of them were promised that they were going to get homes if they left willingly. A lot of them didn't.
They didn't.
But they were forced out of their houses to get this over to Gaza as a peace treaty. Gaza's a mess. Gush Katif at the time, which was already like almost 20 years ago, was making over $100 million a year from an incredible science that they were able to literally grow plants agriculture out of sand. So like they literally had this over $100 million thing. Now, if you drive there now, it looks like it was 20 years ago when we gave it to them. Yep. So it's like, we've been doing these things. Like I explain to a lot of people, it's like you have a kid who misbehaves and he's like, oh, I promise I won't misbehave again if you give me a piece of candy. So you say, promise? He says, yeah, you give him a piece of candy. He misbehaves again. He's like, oh, no. I'm so sorry if you give me another piece of candy, I'm not going to misbehave. You give him another piece of candy. Misbehaves. At what point do you realize the kid's not learning his lesson and you're just giving him candy? That's the issue here. It's just facts. And it's like, it's a huge issue. But it's like for a country that's the size of New Jersey, the fact that the UN is so concerned about us, the fact that we're on the news as much as we are, there are so many other countries. Think about the genocide going on in Africa. Think about the fact that America seems to have forgot most of the things going on in Ukraine from Russia.
Right.
Like everything going on in Syria, all these places. a lot of these people are victims in their own people. A lot of these people who live in the Palestinian Authority are very good people, and they're literally victims of their own people, treated as human shields, pushed aside, treated as garbage. The money that America's given them is going to the Palestinian Authority, not the people that need it. And it's like, it's so sad on so many angles that it's not even just like Israel's so bad. It's like, no, their side are treating their own people poorly. It's 100%. Not that they're all bad people. They're treating their own people poorly. It's like 100%. If we had the extremist, crazy, like Haredi Jews in Israel running the state of Israel, there'd be much more issues. But we don't have that. They have the extremists openly, admitted, like terrorist organizations like Hamas who are running their shit, and they're like, claiming victim. Like,
it's just weird that the media caters to that and will so often show one side of what's going on. And while there's always, and I'm not saying Israel's perfect and there's always room
100%. Yeah,
but to pretend like they're occupiers or oppressors or it's an apartheid country, I implore anyone who believes that, and this is what I always say, if you really believe that, what I implore you to do is dress up as an Orthodox Jew. You put a kippah on, you can put a white shirt on, just dress up as an Orthodox Jew and take a stroll into East Jerusalem. Not even too deep, not into Gaza. Just take a stroll into East Jerusalem.
Not even Orthodox Jew. Dress up as me. Be me.
And just walk
I'm not wearing a yarmulke. I'm not wearing tzitzit. I'm not wearing tefillin. I'm not wearing any of that stuff. Coming as a gay man, good luck to you.
Right. And then I would say dress up as an Arab and walk into a Jewish neighborhood and see what happens. You think you're going to you're not going to get attacked. If anything, people are going to move away from you. So the idea that there's oppression. I remember when we were kids, we were walking to the Western Wall to the Kotel, and there was like a group of people, of older people, with like signs like "Stop the oppression." And Dad walked over to them. He's like, I agree with you. We got to end this oppression. And they're like, "You serious?" He's like, "Yeah, we got to get the Arabs out of our land." And obviously they didn't like that too much. And I was like, "Oh God, Dad, let's not start it here."
Yeah.
But I think the Arab Israelis that are living there are great. They're good people. They just want to work, support their families, live good lives like everybody else, just regular people. And then you have people on the outside. And what Sheldon was saying before about those walls, when you drive to my parents' house, my parents live over what they call the green line in what people consider the settlements in a city called Efrat.
Occupied territories.
Right, which is a beautiful city with about 12,000 more families.
And also, Efrat does not have a single wall surrounding it.
Not a single.
It.
And
we have the top
border
security
Bethlehem.
Because there's been people who tried to break in our communities with knives and guns and everything like that.
Right.
We don't have a single wall, so they can't claim that whole over Buxton thing.
Right. And as you're driving into over the green line into Gush Etzion, the area that Efrat is in, you're driving on the left side of the highway is Bethlehem, which is massive. It extends from Jerusalem all the way into the Gush. And the wall is clearly slanted over the highway because until they built that wall, there were people that were shooting down from the houses on the mountain at cars on the highway. I mean, I've had rocks thrown at my car from kids that stand on the side of the highway. They pick up massive rocks, throw it at your car, hoping you stop. Because then you'll get attacked, but you got to just keep driving, obviously.
There's literally a whole course you could take at Caliber 3, which is a place there for safety and security and stuff that literally, it's a whole simulation when you're in an attack, being in your car and how you handle yourself and if rocks are being thrown at you and how to handle yourself in that situation. Because we have to learn. Have you ever heard of a Jew or throwing rocks or Molotov cocktails? And I'm sure that in the past there's been maybe one or two bad apples and stuff like that. No Jews are perfect at all. No person's perfect. But when you look at the numbers of everything, it's just like something's not adding up.
Like, it's just like I know so many people. We both know people personally, either them or their siblings or relatives who have been in terrorist attacks. We were friendly with the store owner on Ben Yehuda, which is one of the main streets in Jerusalem, who had a suicide bomber's head fly into the back of the store and smash into the wall. That store called Shkalim. I mean, it's mind-boggling. And somehow it's still portrayed as if the exact opposite is going on. And it's so easy to sit in America and say Israel's terrible, Israel's apartheid, and you have all these people in the media and social media and the news, Mia Khalifa, all these people posting nonsense.
And 95% of them have never even been here. You've never even
like
been, it's like
Rashida Tlaib and not being allowed
about
here.
shit you don't know.
Right.
If you've
right.
been
Ilhan
here
Omar,
and
Rashida
you've
Tlaib, those
seen
people are
it,
the worst. The worst.
It's like, don't talk about, I don't spew shit about things I don't know. If you don't know, don't talk. That's literally what it comes down to. It's like I always say, like nowadays we're fighting for, Black Lives Matter, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, all these things. We went through the Holocaust as Jews. I'm literally gay and Jewish. I would have been like at the top of Hitler's list. Like I was only missing one more attribute and I would have been like, oh, he's a bonus jackpot. And it's like, and I still get called white male privilege all the time. And it's like, okay, well, I literally grew up in a religious Orthodox community and I am gay, but sure, I did have a lot of things maybe that I was privileged for being white in terms of my other friends who are, people of color. Right. But I'm not just white privilege, oh, you just had it so easy, because not even close.
Right.
But it's like, we went through the Holocaust, like we were talking about before, what Dad was saying. Whenever Dad said, like, like these people who lived in Germany and all these places, it's not like, people, I remember when I was a kid, people were like, well, why didn't they just leave? He used to always say, it's not like they were living such hard lives there. They were doing really well, living very nice lives there. That nothing like that would have ever happened. So I remember he used to always say, like, don't get too comfortable when you're in America. Like, just know, like, there's never, and I used to always roll my eyes and be like, okay, Dad, like, you're crazy. Like, what are you even talking about? Like, this guy's out of his mind. And then as an adult and being a gay man and being open with that, and, for a while and everything, that I was like, it's just a part of me. It's not something that's like all of me. And then it's like, I would like look at the way things are portrayed about Israel and see everything else in the news. And I'm like, like, how is it that like Jews totally like this whole country is literally the size of New Jersey, which first of all, it's New Jersey. It's bad. Second of all, it's small.
The armpit of America. I live in New Jersey. It's pretty nice here.
I know. I'm just saying. It's cute, but it's very small when you compare it to the rest of America. And it's like, we're so small. We went through the Holocaust, all this other shit. Let us have this one country. That's so bad to those other people, then let them go to anything else if we're just so bad. We're so bad. Right. We're horrible.
And we didn't come in to a country that was settled and built from people that have been living there for thousands of years. We were there. We were kicked out. We came back in. The land was nothing. Tel Aviv was a desert. It was literally a desert. Look, just Google Tel Aviv in the early 1900s. It's a desert. Sand. Nothing was there. It was
It's
swamps.
like so many of my friends who weren't Jewish and I was moving to Israel, they're like, you moving to Israel? And I'm like, yeah.
Right.
Like, is it dangerous? And I'm like, let me guess. You just imagine like it's a bunch of sand and like tanks are around. They're like, yeah. And I'd be like,
it's one of the most technologically advanced countries in the world. That's why it's funny.
I work in high tech here. We have one of the largest high tech things, the fastest growing high tech sector in the world.
Right. It's also funny to me when people say boycott Israel. If you boycott Israel, so many of the products you use every day are gone because Israel created so many of them.
To call blah, 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 push 5 or push 3 or push 2, that was developed here. Most of the high tech was developed here. Mobileye was developed here. Most of the high tech car stuff for safety was developed here. Most of the stuff that people are using was developed here. Waze was developed here. It's like, yeah, boycott the country that literally is coming from nothing. Yeah, coming from nothing. Literally has the world against it, and yet we're thriving.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Thriving.
We have 5 elections, and our government's a bit of a mess. But
I mean,
we're
thriving
doing pretty damn good.
is an understatement. I remember when I went to visit Ukraine a few years ago. It looks like it hasn't been updated in like 40 years. I was in Kiev.
Well, now Russia blew it up all the place, so probably doesn't.
That's a whole mess. But Israel, like the fact that since 1948 until now, in that short span of time, they've grown. Like you go to Tel Aviv and you look around, and it's like a metropolis that was literally a desert less than 100 years ago, and now it's so like skyscrapers galore. They're building so much here; it's crazy. Even when we were younger, like I've been coming here since I was 9, like I was saying, and now I'm 30, and it's like it's crazy how much it's been built up. But even the fact that Israel's so advanced also makes having to deal with all the nonsense so much more annoying because like there's so many little things that you're just like, why can't this be easier?
Did you not see all the stuff we've just done or all the good we do? It's like, oh, Israel, that apartheid country. Oh no.
Right.
Oh, they're horrible.
Oppressing Palestinians.
Like learn your history, people. And they say history repeats itself, and that's what it's doing over and over and over here. And yet everyone's still blaming the same country.
But what's interesting is that I still see on a lot of YouTube shorts and videos have been circulating with with Kanye West and other people who are
God.
talking about the Illuminati or the Jews behind everything.
Oh,
But
we're
what
behind
scares
everything.
Me, what scares me is not what
Marjorie Taylor Greene,
these
thank
crazy,
you for pointing out our lasers.
Right, these people that say these things are not necessarily what concerns me as much as all the comments of people supporting them, saying Kanye's telling us the truth. We just have to open our eyes, or this guy's spitting facts, as the kids say, but we just got to we're just not paying attention to it. Like so many of the media outlets that we're talking about that portray Israel a certain way, first of all, are run and owned by Jews who are the executives, which is very interesting. So they're Jews who are very liberal and who are obviously part of the agenda of making Israel out to be this terrible place. And like the New York Times, I believe, was owned by Jews, if not still, for many, many years.
Yeah. That's the thing. We own everything. We're taking over Hollywood. We're taking over everything. We're the elite. We're ruining everyone's lives. Like,
which is funny because Orthodox Jews and those Jews are so disconnected from each other.
It's like look at my tax returns. Tell me who's elite, please. Like, like what do you think I am doing? Like, literally, like if I was like elite and all that stuff, like bitch, I'd be like making bank. Like I'm a horrible scammer if that's what we're doing.
Right.
It's mind-boggling, and it's frightening.
Yeah, I don't know what. It's just very hard to find anything. Again, I mean, the media has become more about sensationalism and making things
that is what the media is.
Exciting, but it's no longer about reporting. It's no longer about actual news.
Nope.
It's like a Netflix show. You know,
that's the thing.
CNN is hemorrhaging bad.
Right, and Fox is doing it in the other way. It's like I always say, like I don't watch all the different news programs to like piece together the puzzle of what's actually happening. Like none of them are here because they care about you and they want to report the news to you because it's so tragic everything going on. What's going to make the money? What's going to bring in the viewers? That's all they care about.
Right,
and it's like that's why, like Hollywood, like with Britney Spears, she was torn down like crazy in Hollywood, literally going through a psychotic breakdown. The media was just ripping her apart. Posting photos everywhere, all this stuff, instead of being like, oh shit, like this girl's going through a lot. Because the gossip of it all. They wanted, like Lindsay Lohan, she was a train wreck. They needed her to be a train wreck. They needed that. When Donald Trump became president, it was a total mess. But all the late night talk show hosts got so much material.
They were all friends with, like, everyone loved him, it seems like, before he became president. He was on The View.
Well, he also used to be a Democrat. He all of a sudden just became a Republican. That his first time running, his own kids couldn't even vote for him because they were registered Democrats. So,
is that a thing? Like, once you're registered as I never voted.
You have to, you have to like, change your whole
election.
Really?
I've never been here for the first time I was here for an election was 2016. They make it
hard on purpose in America.
That's when
they
I just
really
came back.
Make the whole thing so complicated intentionally. And it's ridiculous. And like it's a whole ridiculous process there.
Well, now I think it's easier. You don't even need an ID to vote in a lot of places, I think.
Right? You just put on a bunch of ballots at once. Be like, oh, 50 here.
Well, I saw Ari Shafir. Right. No, they were saying it was...
Doing it digitally isn't safe. But having it on pieces of paper that these random strangers are collecting, that is totally trusting.
These non-biased strangers... I mean, I'm not an election denier, but I'm not one of those.
Like 6th, even here, when I was voting in my 5th election, it's like you go behind this like booth. It looks like like when you give like in like 8th or 9th grade, you give like a presentation, like one of those like cardboard things that like come out of the side.
Like a science fair.
It's literally like that. You literally have things. You're given a pencil, and you like check out the person you want, and you literally put it into like this like tissue box.
Right.
And I'm like,
it's like school. It's like a school board president.
Literally, it was like a mock election I did in elementary school, and I'm like,
"This is how we are deciding the most powerful man in the world."
Like digital it's too high risk, but this is normal. Like,
have you ever seen? There was an old movie with Robin Williams where he was a comedian and he ran for president as a joke, and he ended up winning.
Really?
Well, like, it's funny because like I forgot what it's called. I haven't seen it in years, but like I feel like that could totally happen nowadays. You could have some random clown who gets up there because we've been getting right.
We had that.
We did, except he was being dead serious.
Now we have some old man they took out of a nursing home to become president, and it's like he's like this really cute old man. You just want to like pinch his cheeks and be like, "Oh my god, I wish he was my grandpa." But like,
hold on, but there's that one. There's a clip someone made of him coming out of a helicopter to the White House, and it's like he's like narrating him walking pretending to be like a Secret Service agent. Like Eagle has touchdown, Eagle is making it into the White House. Be sure to point in the right direction so he knows exactly where to go.
Because he literally went the wrong way once.
Right, and he goes, okay, he definitely cannot miss this. Oh, Eagle has gone off course. Quick, someone get a kid or a woman with nice smelling hair. You just see him walk way off down the grass.
He's like the grandpa you always wanted, not the president
it's sad.
you always wanted.
Right, it's just sad. It seems a little bit sad, like he's almost like propped up there.
It's very sad. Also, people are really mean to him. Like with Trump, it was like people just hated him, so they were mean to him. With Biden, it's like people are just like on Twitter all day. Like,
right, he's not saying mean things on Twitter or bashing people. He's just
not a
doing
bad
his
person.
thing.
He's just
right. I don't think he's a bad guy.
He's kind of like he just comes across a little bit as like the senile.
He's a little bit senile. He's a little bit not all there. You know, he's one foot out the door. It seems like.
Right. I mean, in all honesty, it's not like we were like, oh my God, he's such an amazing person. We must vote him in. We would have never had a better person.
It was anything but Trump.
Exactly. Which I got, and I did vote, but like, it's not like we were all like, oh yeah, he's just amazing. Like it was really like the lesser of two evils, kind of like the first election, 2016.
Right.
It's sad that that's the election I've come to. It's not like, oh, who's the better one? Who should I vote for? They're both so good. It's like, oh shit, who's like less horrible?
Right, exactly. I don't know
because they're literally taking on the weight of the world on their shoulders. It's not an expression anymore. It's like you can't do that unless you are a narcissist, and you can't have been that big unless you have stepped on people and have done.
There's no more good people. Good people are not going to run because they're just going to get destroyed.
Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative doesn't matter. They've all done shady shit. They're all politicians who are media trained who say specific things. That was the biggest thing about Trump is that whatever media training he got, he just wasn't listening to.
Right.
So that's what was so blown up, of course, because all them, whatever they're saying, it's like with celebrities. People are like, oh, so-and-so is so nice. Oh my God, she's so sweet. You have no idea who the hell they are. You literally only know them based off of interviews and like their social media, which is so Facetunes and everything else. They're literally trained by people and they have publicists. They literally know what questions they're going to be asked, how they're going to respond.
Remember Joe Biden's card that it said, then you will take your seat.
Favorite. When
as opposed to you taking someone else's seat, right?
Because, I mean, I've done that so many times.
At least he didn't mess that one up.
I almost took her seat again.
Right.
Well, he almost did. Luckily, the whole world saw the card, so they were able to help him out in case he forgot.
Yeah, there's a good meme someone made of like you see Donald Trump like swinging a golf club at his course and the ball flies and then it moves to hit Biden as he's walking up the steps of his plane and then he falls down.
And if I heard he doesn't even have such great aim, Trump, so I don't think he would have got that well. Right. It's all a mess. Yeah, like no one's taking on that role because they're like, oh my God, this America, it's really falling apart. Like I just need to help America. That's what I'm all about. Like no, dude, you have to be narcissistic. You're literally taking on the weight of the world on your shoulders. There's no reason to do that unless you literally just love the admiration of it all and you want to feel like you're doing something.
I just worry that Trump is too narcissistic. He's going to run and it's going to end up destroying any chances because he's going to split the Republican vote.
That's why I wonder if he is going to. Because on one hand, I'm like, I mean,
he made it clear he wants to.
So I thought for sure in the beginning, like, oh, he's totally going to run it. But then I think like, but if he claims this whole time, like, with this election, oh, it was rigged, oh, it was stolen from me, like, blah, 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 even though he literally still had 72 million votes. So it's not like Joe Biden won by a landslide. So in itself, it's a ridiculous argument. But like, is he going to put himself in that predicament again where he's going to, if he does lose, which I would think he would at this point, play the whole, oh, it was rigged again? Or is he not going to put himself in that situation? Because it's like, oh, I just can't trust it. So I would love to run, but like, I don't trust the system. This way, it's like he could leave playing that thing as opposed to losing yet again. It's kind of
I wondered if DeSantis is going to run and if he's going to make a bid for.
No. He's already being investigated into. He's a pathological liar. You heard he's Jew-ish. You know that.
What does that mean?
Oh, clearly you don't know any of the news about him.
He's so Jew-ish?
Yeah, because his grandparents fled from Germany or whatever country he made up right before the Holocaust and everything because they were Jews and everything like that, till he was called out that he definitely does not have Jewish grandparents. Then when he was in different interviews, like, well, I didn't say I was Jewish. I was saying how I was Jew-ish. But what's Jew-ish? You either Jewish or aren't. Your grandparents were either Jewish and escaping the Holocaust or they weren't.
Right.
He also said that he was a star volleyball player at Baruch College in New York. He wasn't even on the volleyball team. He literally
What
He's
is
just
that?
making
Like,
up
what? I don't
random
understand
ass
that.
stories.
Because things like that are so easily identifiable as to whether
Especially
or not they're true.
nowadays, where literally
Right.
everyone has access to everything. Like
Biden said he was a professor at some university. He just completely made that up.
what do you think you're gaining from that? Also, like people literally are only going to know you're lying. There was nothing. It was like, oh wow, he's Jewish. Let me vote for him. If anything, it was like, dude,
Maybe he's trying to connect with the older generation who's not going to be like, wow.
Who's not going to go on Google.com? Who's not going to have a grandson or granddaughter be like, grandma,
Right.
you might want to see this. So he's literally being investigated, and he's refusing to resign, and they are most likely going to force him to because he's literally lied on so many different things.
Wow.
It's literally mind-boggling.
Everyone's getting investigated, resigned. I remember.
No, but this was like just many made up things.
Right.
Andrew Cuomo
But
was
is he-
sad because he was good in some ways, and then it was like he just completely blew everything up.
Him and de Blasio both. Nuclear bomb this entire state.
No. De Blasio was always awful. Never liked him. I thought he was using his son for his whole campaign in the beginning.
I mean, he was the worst mayor in New York City history.
Never liked him. Never liked him when he was.
I don't know how he got voted in.
But Andrew Cuomo, when the pandemic was happening, and he was one of the few states where he was really onto it, getting it together, making sure, calling out the government, getting the beds, getting the ventilators, really on top of things.
We were one of the first places hit, if not the first.
Right. So he was really on top of it. And then it was like, oh, this came out. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, even the few ones that finally do a good thing, it's like, you too? Like, great.
Right.
Like, no one's good. It's like literally like everyone in politics. It's like, okay, well, who's less shitty? I guess I'll vote for them.
But like everyone has skeletons in their closet, but like certain things are like really bad.
Nowadays,
You wonder like how are all these people right? How are these people like these are people who did bad things. Like there's doing things that like you're not proud of, and then there's like really bad things that you hope no one ever finds out about.
Because unfortunately in society, a lot of the things we usually just swept under the rug or ignored. How is it that R. Kelly was still able to have a career and do things after since I was a child, he had all these allegations on against him. Literally, a woman suing him who was underage, claiming how he raped her and peed on her and all this stuff. And like, still had a career, still did a song with Lady Gaga.
Same thing with Michael Jackson.
Right. I mean, technically in court, he never got convicted. So
right,
people could say that thing.
There's that documentary. What's it called? Leaving Neverland.
I have mixed feelings. I just feel like I don't know what happened. Right. I don't know what happened, but at the same time, the parents who are sending their children off to stay at a grown man's house by themselves without the permission, they're like 5 years old, and then you're all of a sudden going to claim all this stuff. It's
they should get in trouble.
Right. It's like I don't think you're any less innocent than
it's child endangerment. It should be considered child endangerment.
And also in that documentary, The Leaving Neverland, it was with Wade Robinson was one of the guys who was in it. And he was actually the one who Britney Spears had as a choreographer who she cheated with when she was dating Justin Timberlake, which is why he came out with Cry Me a River and they broke up. But Wade Robinson vehemently denied all allegations and was a key witness for Michael Jackson in many of the cases. And then once he was dead and doing all of that, and it's not like you just go to court one day, you're like, oh, well, today's the day. Like, you're dealing with lawyers for months. You're in preparation for months. You're having 100%. Mock trials at your lawyer's office. There's a lot of preparation. You're going into that vehemently denying this. And then once the guy is already long dead, and after all these times, now you're like, yes, he did, and I'm going to sue you for money.
Right. Like it's like the kid who was suing Nirvana recently because of the baby picture on the
sue your damn parents, not Nirvana. Right. Sue your parents. Your parents were literally throwing you as a baby in Hollywood to get their 5 seconds of fame. Nirvana has nothing to do with that shit. Sue your parents. Your parents are wrong. The end.
It's sad because a lot of kids are put into Hollywood like that, like Orlando Brown.
But like you're literally missing the point. Kind of like Israel. You're kind of missing the point. Like, bitch, it wasn't Nirvana. Nirvana's like, oh, I want that baby. They weren't predators. Nowadays, an album cover like that wouldn't be able to happen because we have so many sick people in this world that we're finally acknowledging as opposed to sweeping under the rug.
Exactly.
But like to sue Nirvana, you completely missed the point. Why did your parents as a baby literally allow you to be in a photo shoot where you were naked for a multi-platinum selling album?
Right. Money.
Exactly. Not Nirvana.
Money.
And they weren't making that much money off the album. The album didn't go multi-platinum because of the cover. The cover was the icing on the cake that was controversial to their album. their album was very successful in and of itself. Still would have been, even if it had a different cover. Literally ridiculous.
Money. It's a money grab. As Dad always says, there's the god that people worship today is the dollar bill. It's just people chasing that bag.
That's also one of the biggest differences between Israel and America. Is America, there's so much more of a keeping up with the Joneses and who has the nicer house,
right?
Who's the nicer car? Who is this? It's really not like that here. And even in the
Israel,
more
one cares.
wealthy communities where people do have a lot of money in the high tech communities, it's not like that judgy thing. People who have a shit ton of money here, you wouldn't even know that.
They put on, when they had a conference for our crowd, which is like that high tech pool funding in Israel.
I just got my ticket.
So they had the CEO of Sony, I believe, came, and they had a lot of executives from corporate companies here in America speak. And, they're all dressed, obviously, in a suit tie. And then the Israeli guys who created Mobileye, who sold for billions, and all these high-tech executives who are worth billions, show up, jeans and a T-shirt, some Blundstone boots. They drive a regular car. They just don't care to spend money
CEO
on
of my company, we've raised $116 million. We started in 2019. My CEO every day.
Crazy. 2019?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And my CEO literally every day, T-shirt, jeans, and usually the T-shirts he wears are literally just our company T-shirts that we have for free that we give out to each other.
Right.
Very simple. Doesn't care. The CTO that he started.
Right. Why would you buy a T-shirt when you can just get a free one that you could wear?
Literally though, literally that's how he is. And it's and people just don't in America. It's like you have to be this thing, and that's why we work. That guy was a scam artist, but it was such a crazy concept for America because it was like, oh, it's work, but oh my god, it's so chill and all this stuff, and it's like.
Right.
Being comfortable in your workplace is going to help you work better unless you're partying and drinking all day and not doing your damn stuff.
Right.
There has to be a balance.
It's a different perspective. It's probably become amplified by this idea of chasing the American dream, and we want to put on this show like we have it all and everything's going great here.
The lands of the free, right. The land of the free. Well, who's free? Because there's literally so much racism and all that shit going on,
right?
And anti-Semitism and all this other stuff, and it's like, who's free?
But at the same time, we are the most, I guess, free country. I don't think anyone else. There's no other country I'd be other than Israel. There's no other country I'd rather live in than the United States.
Canada,
or maybe Switzerland. Nice. Switzerland seems nice.
Switzerland, yeah, because they're just bitches. You do your own shit. We're not.
Right. Don't bring that. Don't bring
exactly.
that over here.
It's oh no, keep that to yourself.
Right. Sweden also.
Everyone
Sweden
from Canada is really nice. I don't know what that is, but also I loved Degrassi when I was a kid. So I was like, okay, Canada, it's a nice place.
Right. Best. Perfect. Okay. On that note, I think we're gonna call it an episode here. Went a little bit over time, but trying to stay on track. I got my wife was laughing because last episode we said we try to be more consistent, and then the next week we're a day late. But it is. I've been a little bit, like I said, I've been coughing. I've been a little bit under the weather. I'm getting back into full throttle. I'm at 90%. So God willing, next week I'll be back at 100. And we'll catch everyone next week. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to
YouTube,
drop a
comment,
like, subscribe, hit the notification guy for some notifications, and Spotify also. You can follow; it'll give you a notification. And we'll catch you guys next week. Have a good one.
Bye.